This week, RDP and credentials that are not really revoked, and some other RDP bitmap caching fun. Some MagicINFO on MagicINFO, vulnerability management zombies. There's a backdoor in your e-commerce. Airborne vulnerabilities in Apple AirPlay. Bring your own installer, crafty EDR bypass. The signal clone used by US government officials. Here's the shocker. It's been hacked. AI slop vulnerability reporting, bricking iPhones with a single line of code, hacking planet technology, vibe hacking for the win. Cybersecurity CEO was arrested for deploying malware. Hello, my perverted friend. FastCGI. Hi. FastCGI is fast but vulnerable. All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly.
Imagine a world where every threat, ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits is stopped before it can even begin. ThreatLocker makes that world a reality with a zero-trust approach to cybersecurity. By giving you granular control on every executable that can happen in your environment, ThreatLocker protects your business around the clock. No more guessing, no more gaps. Just rock-solid protection that keeps your operations running smoothly and your data secure. Discover how ThreatLocker's least privilege approach can safeguard your organization against known and unknown threats. Take the first step towards total peace of mind. Visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker today. Coming to you from Purgatory Studios in semi-high definition, compliments of Darth Vader himself. This is Paul's Security Weekly. It's episode number 873, being recorded on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. I'm, of course, Paul Sidorian. To my left, Mr. Larry Bechet.
Hey,
what's up, Larry?
It's been a hot minute.
He's back in studio.
Yeah, this is what happens when you have 3 weeks of back-to-back work travel.
Yeah, you've been doing some stuff and some things.
Yeah, Sans Orlando, California for a customer, home for like a day and a half, out to RSA, back home.
Nice.
And I'll be in Virginia next week teaching for Sans.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I will be joining the show because class ends on Wednesday before the show starts. And I'll be in a hotel room, so
Yep.
with nothing to do.
Miss Mandy Logan is here with us. Mandy, welcome.
I am back from RSAC, and I got to see quite a few of you there. That was
She's frozen.
Oh,
She was.
She was. She was so here.
She was here.
And, hopefully she comes back.
is it gone?
Oh,
Kinda
she's back.
She's kind of back.
Okay, good. Glad you're here, Mandy. Mr. Jeff Mann is here with us. Jeff, welcome.
Also glad to be back after spending a week in California for RSAC conference.
Mr. Josh Morpett is here with us. Josh, welcome.
Hey, always a pleasure. Happy to be here. And yeah, I'm busy too. I went to a CMMC conference on Monday. I've got one tomorrow. I've got 2 next week, and one of which I get to see Jeff Mann at. So that's awesome. So
Sweet.
second podcast today.
Mr. Bill Swearingen is here with us. Bill, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Lee Neely.
Hey, good to be here. I've been roughing it today. We decided to go do a wine pickup and have lunch out at the winery.
Retirement sounds amazing. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. Mr. Sam Bound is here with us. Sam, welcome.
Good evening. Glad to be here.
We've got quite the crew tonight. Can't wait to dig into it. Before we do, make sure you check out Identiverse 2025. It's returning to Las Vegas June 3rd through the 6th. You can hear from 250 plus expert speakers, connect with 3,000 plus identity security professionals across 4 days of keynotes, breakout sessions, and deep dives into the latest identity security trends. Plus, you can take part in hands-on workshops and explore the brand new non-human identity pavilion. Register now and save 25% with the code IDV25-SecurityWeekly at securityweekly.com/IDV2025. Also, I'll be speaking at RSAC. My travel is booked. The schedule is up.
Nice.
I am excited. Going to be talking about Linux on the desktop for security professionals.
My media pass is secured. I will see you there, Paul.
Hell
Sweet.
But not necessarily
Awesome.
at his talk. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'll be at the bar.
I do want to also give a shout out to the fine folks at Corncon I think you said it was Chris that gifted us this fine bottle of Corncon whiskey.
Wait, that's the bottle that he gave you? Why is your bottle bigger than my bottle that he gave me?
Wow,
Because Paul's going to share this with
Do we have to explain it to you, Bill?
Yeah, Paul's going to share it with another person, Bill.
Oh, okay,
It's not the size; it's how you use it.
Right. So Paul's is bigger because he shares it with Larry. Got it.
yes, exactly that.
They're close.
Mine
See,
has
the problem is it's one of us holding, the other one pushing. So.
Right.
mine has writing on the back.
So like Paul and Larry are like a 1980s sitcom, like they're roommates or whatever, right? Like
yeah,
Three's Company.
whiskey.
Wait,
Three's
what?
Company.
So, has anybody been to Corncon before?
No.
Okay,
but
I've been there a couple times. I was there 2 years ago. Great conference. Surprising for the middle of nowhere in Iowa. Not to disparage Iowa, they got lots of corn, which means they've got lots of good bourbon out there.
Yep. Which I was going to say, bribery will get us everywhere.
That's exactly. I love that. Is awesome, Larry. Yes. If you're going
Bourbon will get us everywhere.
If you're gonna bribe us, I suggest we all submit and we all go have a.
Well,
a
there was
party
I think this is like a suggestion. So this is vintage 2024 Corncon whiskey. Says CFP is open October 10th through the 11th, 2025. Corncon.net. So thank you.
Just Paul, just so you know, it's the weekend after GERCON. So
yes,
it'd be 2 weekends in a row for you.
That could be rough.
You can do it, Paul. You can do it. What you should do is you should fly to Kansas City and then we road trip together. That's what we should do.
What you should do
only
is
if we're taking your car.
Take that bottle. Don't
funny.
drink another drop and take it home to your wife.
So I also just want for all the listeners out there, if you're running a conference and you want us to announce something about your conference on the show,
write it on the back of bourbon.
Write it on the bottle of back of the bottle of bourbon and send it to us, and then you too can have your conference featured on the show. I like this.
It's a great strategy.
Precedent.
Yep.
Do I remember that Corncon includes a younger hacker event subtitled Children of the Corn?
Children of the Corn. That's correct.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so happy.
That sounds terrifying and awesome at the same time.
Out of the button-down mind of John
Yeah,
Johnson.
and they, if memory serves, I mean, they run it as a separate conference. They got 60 or 80 kids coming to it.
Whew.
Holy crap! That's
I don't think I'm
cool.
exaggerating.
If it takes place in a diner, like in the movie, I'm very scared. That scene will forever be ingrained in my brain.
And there's a decent cigar lounge there too, Paul.
Nice.
I know that's important.
Checking all the boxes.
Yep.
All right. Are we ready to dive into it? Was there any other announcements that we had?
Well, as long as we're conferencing, do we want to recap RSAC a little bit?
How was RSAC?
Busy.
Good.
It was
Okay,
very
moving
busy.
on.
Well, busy. I mean, I had a ton of fun because Finite State sponsored the AppSec Village over in the Sandbox, which was kind of weird because it was a full block away from the main conference space. But we had a ton of fun. One, because we, quote, had booth duty at the AppSec Village, and it was the best booth ever. Why? Because we got to sit down the entire time because we had chairs.
Nice.
Because
That's nice.
we invented a card game for IoT hacking that we played at the booth and gave away prizes and gave a couple of copies of the game away. And
I love it.
It's going to be, we're going to do the same thing at DEF CON at the embedded device village. So we'll have the game there and come by and play. And yeah, it's fun.
Sounds awesome.
Mandy and I did a bunch of executive live streaming interviews. I got to interview HD Moore and talk a little bit about his new endeavor. And I really think we should have him on the show just for a general topical discussion of the rise and fall and rise again of vulnerability management, because he's really trying to redefine it.
That's why I called it vulnerability management zombies.
Yep.
He's such a good dude. Like, he's so approachable for, how big of a name or whatever he is.
Oh, he totally is.
Yeah, he's such a good dude. I'm glad that you got to spend some time with him.
Yeah, and I did read one of his posts or something about the new vulnerability management paradigm, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And so, was this part of like Run Zero, or was this something new that he's?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there talking about Run Zero.
But I forget what his what was the premise of what he was saying, that
the vulnerability management's kind of run amok and is broken.
Yeah,
which
he
I
had
think
like
would fit right in.
He had an answer to that, and I don't remember what that was.
Yeah, it's Run Zero.
Well, okay. All right. Well, moving right along.
Oh, well, hey, if you
the
can hear
link
me
to
now.
his interview is in the show notes.
Go,
Mandy.
Mandy's got something.
No, go ahead, Mandy.
Share, Mandy.
RSAC was fantastic. Like Larry and Jeff said, there was a lot. And one thing I really enjoyed was getting to talk in depth with the DARPA people at the AIXCC exhibit. That was actually incredibly interesting and detailed. So for listeners, if they haven't heard of it, it's a 2-year contest. I highly recommend that the winners, the final challenge will be at DEF CON in August, but that was fascinating. Of course, all good for open source. Figuring out how to make cyber reasoning systems that would autonomously detect and patch in critical infrastructure. That's the main focus. And
that's really cool.
A couple of interesting things was they started with 90, went to 42 teams. They're down to the final 7. There's $25 million on the line for this. And I think it was still at the 42 teams level, they actually found a 0-day in the system that DARPA had created for this entire contest.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait,
Rock
what?
on.
They did.
Bonus points for that.
Yep.
Yeah. So Josh, DARPA built this whole CTF for the AI stuff, and the AI found a 0-day in the software packages that they were using.
No shit, really?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's even got a CVE assigned to it. What it is off the top of my head, I don't know, but there is a CVE assigned.
Yeah, and I got to talk to Alexander, right? That was your former boss?
Nicholas.
There we go.
Nicholas.
Yes.
Yep.
That was fantastic. And there was a lot of other things at RSAC.
Yeah,
but it was mostly at
I saw a
Broadcast
pretty
Alley.
healthy social media presence on LinkedIn from RSA. It looked largely positive, other than there were some posts complaining about the goats and the puppies at RSA, which I thought was interesting. But I did see that Gnostic won an award or got some funding.
Yep.
I posted that. I did see a Linux cybersecurity company called Sandfly, which I thought was really cool. And I've since investigated further, and I'm really interested in what they're doing, because I thought if you got a cybersecurity startups focused on Linux, I'm interested. A lot of them got bought. So
highlight for me, if I may, my tradition is to show up Sunday morning and then go spend a couple hours at B-Side San Francisco, which I did this year. I'm on the vendor floor, which is kind of the hangout area, and I see this guy at a distance, really long, thick, curly red hair, and I'm like, that looks like Dan Farmer. What would Dan Farmer be doing here? So I did one of those casual walk close to him, look at him, like, crap, that is Dan Farmer. So I walk up and like, Dan? He goes, yes, it's Jeff Manning. He's like, Jeff. So ended up hanging out with Dan Farmer, which for the listening audience is one of the pioneers in the cybersecurity industry. He was the co-author. I'm sorry, I should go all the way back. He wrote one of the first intrusion detection tools called COPS back in 1990, and then 95 is when Satan came out. Bonus points if anybody can say what Satan stands for. Off the top of your head without Googling?
I don't remember now.
Isn't the S stand for Satan?
Yeah.
It's system administrators, something. But
yeah, so he doesn't even get the bonus points.
I don't get the bonus points either. That's where my memory is. But I invited him to the TongaCon reboot, which is now CarbomCon, because we had it in an Irish pub, and he hung out there for a couple hours. Had a chance to sit and talk to him, and he likes PCI.
Well, does anyone know who he wrote Satan with? Jeff?
Vitsa Venema.
And do you know what episode we interviewed Dan and Vietz on?
I know it was before COVID. I don't know the number.
I don't know the number off the top of my head either, but it is out there in the archive.
It is out there.
And you should go listen.
If only we knew how to get to the archive.
Yep.
So, can I loop back to Corncon for a second? I just got a message from John Johnson. He just told me they had 50 students last weekend in their kids' hacker camp, 150 Chicago high school students in their CTF and Cyber Career Day, and in the fall he gets 120 kids for Children of the Corn Cob.
Oh, I was underestimating it. That's awesome.
I mean,
tell him
about
we're
cool
not going to
stuff
talk about it on the podcast.
Okay, I'll tell him that we will not mention Corncon, Children of the Corn Cob, or anything else he's working on the podcast.
No, we can. He sent us bourbon. So
he has to send more bourbon.
Right,
I see.
right, yeah.
I agree with that. Yes, send us more bourbon.
I'll be happy to make sure it doesn't go bad for you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lee. I want to talk about RDP. RDP is one of the hot stories.
Yeah, you know me.
The hot story. That's right. You down with RDP? Yeah, you know me and credentials that aren't really revoked. I just couldn't believe this when I read. I'm like, is this? Are we for real now?
Yep.
Apparently, we're for real. So Microsoft will not fix this, and it basically stems from TLDR. If you've got a Windows system and Azure credentials were used to log into it, but then you revoke those credentials in Azure, they're still valid on the local system. Is that roughly?
Not just Azure, all cloud accounts like Hotmail and Outlook.com, the kind they force you to use in Windows 11.
Oh, right.
Right.
They're trying to pretend this is okay, and I think they can't possibly. I mean, there has to be some way to turn it off. And I tried to clear the credentials. I wrote up a project for my students where we tried this, and I can't find any way to clear the cached credentials off the machine. There ought to be some way to turn off this behavior and force it to actually authenticate with the cloud, but there doesn't seem to be.
Does it ever expire? Right? Does that cache ever expire, or?
There's not enough information from Microsoft. I can't even find it. It's not in Credential Manager. And if you go to group policy and turn off cached logins, that doesn't get it either. I even tried to hunt for it by doing red shots. I can't figure out where they're hiding it or how to delete it. But at the very least, they need to give us some tool that you can use to delete it in sensitive environments.
Yeah, so here's the breakdown from security researcher Daniel Wade, who made the discovery. He says, old credentials continue working for RDP even from brand new machines. Defender, Entra ID, and Azure do not raise any flags. There's no clear way for end users to detect or fix the issue, speaking of Sam's point. No Microsoft documentation or guidance to address this scenario. Even newer passwords may be ignored while older ones continue to work.
Well,
you change your Azure password, but the old one still works via RDP.
Yeah, so Sam,
did you read the response from Microsoft?
Yes,
there is an official statement from Microsoft saying this is intentional behavior so you can connect to your machine even if it can't reach the cloud service, which doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, if you're connecting over RDP, you're connecting over RDP, so obviously it's got to be on the network, but that's what they say. There's an official statement from Microsoft.
That's the thing.
It could be on the network, doesn't mean internet.
Internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I guess they're so worried about that. They say, we don't want you to lose access to your machine, so we'll keep taking the old password. It's just amazing. This should be default behavior that you can't turn off.
Right.
I mean,
that's the issue. That's the issue that you can't turn off. And so, Sam, it sounds like you've tested it. Like you ran a lab and did that. What was your setup like? So walk me through what you did. What was that setup?
Here's what you do. You go to Windows 11 and you add a cloud account the way they want you to. You go into user accounts and add a new account, and you put in like a Hotmail address or an Outlook.com address. Then you go into Outlook.com in a browser and create an account. Then you log in once with that account to fully create the local account on the machine. Mm-hmm. Then you go back to the cloud and change your cloud password. And now you can log into the machine with RDP using the old password. It cached the old password, and when you log in, it doesn't check with the cloud account, even when it's available.
So even with the system is on the internet and able to talk to the service, it doesn't sync the new password. Right. I mean, you can log in with the new password and the old password.
I have never tried to use the new one. I'm not sure it would work.
I would hope that would work.
Yeah,
that would be weird. Password, last password, history of previous passwords. I guess you only need one.
I only tried one, but there might be a limited. I know for Active Directory, there's a limit of 10 by default.
Well, this might be a situation like when you're resetting the KRBGT, where you need to reset it twice in order to force that, that cache delete or whatever, right? So like a
maybe
golden
logging
ticket attack, right?
It would be interesting to know if logging in with the new password invalidates the old one. That might be possible. I didn't test that.
Well, it'd also be interesting to reset your password twice and see if the 2 passwords ago still works as well, right?
But isn't that what it's indicating?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Did we find Daniel's original research? I did a quick check, and I couldn't find anything published by security researcher Daniel Wade, who was mentioned in the Ars Technical article. But I was hoping for like a technical write-up from the researcher. I didn't find it in this case, but I didn't look very hard.
So what are you supposed to do if your credentials are compromised?
Exactly. You have to close the account and make a new account or something. I mean, this is insane.
That's pretty
But
stupid.
wouldn't that only be a problem if it was compromised with the account that you originally, the first one that logged into that machine?
No, every
password.
cloud account. Because I made a local account, and the cloud account was like the third account I made on the machine. So... But Windows 11 tries to force you to make a cloud account. They make it very difficult to make a local account. So that's what everybody's using.
They do make it extremely hard to make a local account now.
Well, they made a change that invalidated a method to bypass it, but there's newer methods to bypass it.
Yeah. But they clearly don't want you doing that. This is now clearly the default is to use cloud accounts. And I think Kevin Beaumont, I like his analysis. He said what they did was they took the local authentication and they replaced it with cloud authentication, and they didn't really think through the consequences.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they did think through the consequences of just the availability, right? So like, how are they going to handle it if the cloud's not available? I got it. We cache it wherever and we store it wherever, right?
Yeah.
Problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So what I've been wondering is, I mean, well, let me think it through. Used to be when you had AD bound systems, you could set the amount of cache down to 0 for credentials.
You still can. That's in group
in this
policy.
case, this isn't an AD account, so the GPO wouldn't apply.
That's correct.
And so therefore, it's coloring outside the lines. So I am tracking that, right?
And it should be some way to turn it off. There's something called Credential Manager, and when you go in there, you will find it has indeed stored credentials for that cloud account. But when you delete them, you can still log in with the old password. So they have another copy of it somewhere.
That's shocking. And I don't know if people know that, Sam, right? Because like I don't the stuff that I've read and and I was skimming, but like I didn't read that it wasn't stored in Credential Manager.
Yeah, that's what I just found out by testing it. I mean, I wrote a project where students observe this behavior, and then I tried to write the part where you fix it, and I can't find any way to fix it.
So, just as an incident responder to the thing, just the outrage here is, let's assume that like, if I were to come into your environment and I were to determine that the threat actor is leveraging RDP to access your environment, and then I would determine that this is the account that they're using, my number one step is to take action, reset that password or disable the account on that account so that I can see where they are in the environment, right? So I want to see them failing. I want to see them so I can see where these are failing in the environment. With this, I lose, first of all, I lose the ability to remove the threat actor's access. Number two, I lose the ability to see what is authorized versus unauthorized logins using that known compromised account. That is a disaster. And they're going to eat crow on this, and they're going to fix it. There's no way.
There's not much you can do, but of course, don't expose RDP.
Right. Actually,
right. But I've got an even better solution. You could just use Linux on your desktop.
Well, I was going to be I was going to be a little gentler and just say don't use RDP.
Right, because there hasn't been any VNC vulnerabilities for Linux at all. Right. Like,
I don't know what you're talking about, Bill. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh no. And there's no Windows remote access programs with vulnerabilities either, of course, but
our RMM software is difficult to
extremely
defend and secure.
Agreed.
In any system, any environment, right? It's remote access, and whether it's a user interface like a GUI or the SS, it's all difficult to lock down for sure.
The question is this RDP or is this the Windows authentication method it's plugged into.
I
So
think it's-
therefore, if something
think
else
it's-
plugged
yeah.
into that, would you get
Yes.
the same stuff different day?
I think it is the Windows authentication. In fact, one thing I haven't tried is just logging on locally with the old password. I think that'll work too. I think this is
That's-
fundamentally the authentication in Windows
I wonder-
11.
I wonder
And by
though,
the-
Sam, if you connect to a share like on that system and authenticate, if it falls
If
back
it's
to
if it's the Windows
the old cloud
authenticator,
credential.
you're same SSSS, same.
You know, there's another question I had, and I just downloaded it, but I haven't installed it yet. Does the latest version of Server 2025, do people log into that with cloud accounts like Outlook and Hotmail? Because if
I
they
think
do,
so.
it would apply to that. It would apply to that too. Then,
Oh crap! Including your admin accounts.
if they're logging in with cloud accounts, yes, probably.
Wait. So back up a step. Does this mean that all of your admin, your privileged accounts, need to be cloud accounts?
I don't know. I haven't installed Server 2025. Did they force you to use cloud accounts the way they do in Windows 11?
They're moving away from they made it hard to use local accounts in 11. I mean, they really make it hard.
Right. But what about
Yeah.
the Server 2025?
Well,
That's,
the server
this is where I'm headed. I mean,
Yeah.
why wouldn't they? They parallelize the latest desktop and server have a lot of
Yeah.
overlap in the way they
Well,
behave.
if this applies on the server, then it's a much greater problem.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it would be it would be devastating. If this exists in server, then the recommendation from me would be do not install that until it's fixed. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
because,
Oh, now I've got to look
well,
it up.
because
well,
I
wait a
don't think
minute.
I don't think very many people really use RDP on Windows 11, but on server they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where I was, my wait a minute was the following. I mean, if you are rigorous with multi-factor,
Yeah.
and even though I could then technically I could add to your server a non-MFA cloud account, but I've got to get in there with MFA to do it.
There's
So-
no MFA in for RDP, is there? I don't think
No,
there is.
well, no, there isn't. But if
You
you all your
can
accounts
make
are
it
MFA,
so.
no, wait a minute, there
But
is.
it's
Yes, there
third party.
is.
There is.
RDP, it does
No,
support
it has to
RDP.
be.
RDP does support MFA.
What
Oh,
about
well,
a
that would help.
What about a passkey? Because there's certain.
That's yeah.
But that might
So I
take-
think it's passkey that allows me to log into Windows Azure AD domains, and I give it. What do I give it? I give it my email, and then it sends me an email, and it has a code. And then the second step, it goes, "That's great, and now I want you to give me the code from your authenticator app."
Right.
And I authenticate. At no point in time did I do a password. I'm wondering if you have it configured that way. If it
Bill,
Well, how do you
I got-
change your
wait,
pass
wait,
key?
wait.
How do you
Wait,
revoke
wait.
an old pass key?
wait,
That's a good question.
I
don't know.
gotta, because I just looked it up. I'm like, and it took me a minute to my Google foo was screwing with me. But according to a couple of pages I found, Windows Server 2025 does support cloud accounts for privileged access and recommends using cloud-only accounts for Entra ID and 365 privileged roles.
Right.
And it recommends using dedicated cloud-only accounts for privileged roles for global administrators to separate them from on-premises Active Directory.
That's the problem.
just
That's the problem.
bad.
Is,
Well, it's
right.
well intended.
It's well intended. That's right.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Lee. That's
But
right.
I wonder, are companies like
Come to the
Beyond-
cloud. Come to
Oh,
the cloud.
but are companies like Beyond Trust and Centrify? Pardon me if I'm getting those wrong, but like your privileged access management solutions
Yeah.
for Windows,
Yeah.
is that a viable solution? Right, because they're basically brokering and putting time limits. In other words, yes, Paul can be an admin, but here's some temporary admin credentials. They're good for this long, and I grant you access to go do what you need to do. and then
honestly,
they
this needs
expire.
a lot more research, right? So
Right.
those are the
I
things.
think-
So are you
like-
talking about timing out the original account that's used when initializing the machine?
Mm-mm.
Well, it's
any
not
user
timing
account.
out. But you know, Paul, I think that's exactly what everyone will have to do research now. Those third-party authentication solutions will have to test and see if this affects them.
Yes.
right? They could be making it worse, right? Like
Right.
they could
So-
essentially be making it worse.
So, I mean, one of the interesting wrinkles in this, you mentioned passkey. I mean, right now, Microsoft is in the process. All new cloud accounts will be passkey, not passwords.
Passkey. Yep.
And it has to be passkey from Microsoft has to use Microsoft Authenticator. So you've got a little higher bar. Actually,
Wait, say that
you
again.
don't have a crash
Passkeys
credential
have-
then.
The passkeys have to use Microsoft Authenticator.
If you're using Microsoft's passkey implementation, you have to use Microsoft's Authenticator. You can't.
The
use
instance I
Google
log
or
into,
Authy.
I used my Google Authenticator to get that.
So,
Not a
so
Microsoft Authenticator.
this brings another issue up, like Bill was saying. So suppose you have a compromise and people are using passkeys. Is there some way to force a rekeying event? And if there is the old key cached somewhere and it still works?
That would be telling.
That would. What an interesting story! Like, hopefully this doesn't go, go under the bridge or whatever. Like, hopefully keep picking on it. I can't believe
If there was some way to like bring it up as an issue and sort of broadcast.
Yeah, if we only knew some podcasters willing to talk about it.
Hold on. Also on RDP, I want to talk about my story number 37. It's the remote desktop puzzle attack.
Right.
And
so
I
much
love
for
that
Paul keeping his story list short.
Yeah. But I had two
I almost
stories
said earlier, like, were there any news stories left in the world?
Yes. So I did have two on RDP. This was the second one. I don't think this is anything new, though. The tools that they talk about that are looking at the bitmap cache that is stored by RDP in a forensics investigation, they were able to use the bitmap cache that's stored by RDP to basically put back together the screenshots of what the attackers were doing. But this is not new.
No.
Obviously, it still works, but this is old. I dated it, 6 years ago or whatever.
Yeah,
so 4 to 6 years ago.
So if you've ever been a part of a forensics investigation where you are able to reconstruct RDP sessions due to this bitmap caching, you will find just the evidence is so helpful. It's a gold mine. It's an absolute, and I think the tools have gotten better. But the last time, so I didn't do this work, but the last time I've been involved with an investigation that used this, we had to have one of our investigators put the little chunks together by hand, essentially to rebuild those screens.
This mentioned BMC-tools and RDP cache stitcher as tools. One of them looked more well-maintained than the other based on the GitHub, but that link is in my story number 37. So get there from there.
So imagine if you were doing that same work, but having Recall doing all those screen captures for you.
There you go.
That's
Who
great.
needs Recall when I've got RDP?
So I'm curious, Paul. 37 stories, but you only comment on 24 through 37
because it was 2 weeks worth of news stories.
So you just
I cherry picked.
You concatenated.
It's the best of the best. We're covering the best of the best stories, Jeff.
We're the best.
So I want to roll back on that cached passkey thing. Because passkeys are cryptographic authentication, they shouldn't. The old one will cryptographically fail. It's just like when you roll the keys. Yes, I'm looking at you, Mr. Jeff.
That would be nice, but I would not trust Microsoft to do it that way. I mean,
they're
that
not
would be nice.
cryptographic authentication.
They're usually hashes. I don't know how they work in Windows.
It's doing cryptography in the background, so you've changed one of your keys. So
I refuse to use a passkey.
So the question is, when you invalidate a passkey, what do they do?
It should invalidate the crypto, so it can't work.
Well, that would be nice, but I know they don't do that for old-fashioned cloud accounts. This was another issue I went into years ago. Microsoft 365 logins, you could change your password, and if you had the old session cookie, you could still get in with it.
Now,
so they tend to think this way.
Different problem. That's a question of whether changing the passkey changes the authentication token.
That's right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Passkeys are really just like Diffie-Hellman key pairs that are handled for the user in the background, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they are tied to your machine, and to you. So a person can't copy them and use them from another machine. But I don't even know how you invalidate them. And the question will be, do they really delete the other end of it? They might not. They might just put it in a queue.
No, they won't work.
That would be nice, but there's no reason they wouldn't just put it in a list of previous logins like they do for Active Directory. They could keep a list of previous keys that we're still going to accept for a period of time. They could do that. There's no technical reason they couldn't.
I agree that that's a thing that needs to be run to ground, but my gut says, based on what I know of how the authenticator is working, it's not possible. But I wouldn't bet the farm on it. That's why I want to go. That's why I'm playing the "we need to research it" card, because the intended behavior is, well, that's one of those great failures start with a line like that. That's not the right cliche, but I this is really neat though. And we could create a whole session at a conference if there was only one with a submission window coming up.
Yes,
Right.
yes. We totally need more research on this, and we really need an authoritative document from Microsoft explaining to us all how this works and how we can turn it off.
All right, Microsoft, if you're listening, you've got your homework. I want to move on to Airborne, a wormable zero-click RCE in Apple AirPlay. What I thought was most interesting about this is it's not just Apple devices.
No.
Yeah.
It's anything that implements the Apple AirPlay SDK, which means your Apple devices are vulnerable, your speakers or media devices that implement AirPlay, and your cars.
Your cheap ass TV, right?
They all are vulnerable to this. Now, how vulnerable they are, whether they use the aspects of the SDK that are vulnerable remains to be seen. But that was the striking thing for me, is just how many devices now are vulnerable to this attack, which has some really serious, well, they call them wormable zero-click remote code execution exploits, which explains it. We won't necessarily delve into all the details. What I also thought was interesting was the stats on just how many devices there are. 2.35 billion active Apple devices across the globe as of January 2025. 100 million active macOS users. They have additionally a number of third-party audio devices that support AirPlay is estimated in the tens of millions. So this is a huge population of devices that are vulnerable to some pretty serious vulnerabilities.
Now, admittedly,
Go ahead.
Admittedly, most of the security advisories are related to tvOS, iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and some for VisionOS.
Yes.
There are a few that reference or are vulnerable for devices that use the AirPlay audio and video and CarPlay communication plugins or SDKs.
Right.
So only 2 of them out of the whole host they found were for other devices.
Does this still work? That still works. Yeah. So that what you're talking about is CVE 2025 24132.
Yep. And
is the speakers and receivers zero-click remote code execution with a demo, and then you've got CarPlay devices, CVE 2025 2413, same CVE.
No, also 30422, which has potential RC.
Gotcha.
Right. So then
it's an integer overflow or wraparound.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember that for the Apple devices, on the update that fixed it came out the 31st of March and the 1st of April. watchOS was a day behind. So those the Apple part of this is addressed if you've got the current updates installed. Yep. Capital if, I know, but they've made the thing available, and they didn't announce this until actually they've come up with a subsequent update beyond that. So you should be covered.
Yeah.
But I'm worried about the not Apples, to be honest.
Good luck with all your other devices.
Hold on, Jeff.
Well, what I find interesting is you described it in its description as wormable. And I thought, that's not a term you hear a whole lot these days in terms of malware. So I found a site that listed the top 10 malware worms.
And
the latest one is 2007.
WannaCry. No.
No, but if you want to take a stab at some of them, I mean, I know the Morris worm.
Yeah.
Let's take it from there. Anybody else want to guess one?
Code Red. Nachi
Code Red, yes. Code Red's listed.
Slammer.
Nope. Not in the top 10 anyway.
Nachi, Welchia, whichever one do you want to call it?
Configure.
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
Configure was a good one.
You give up? I'll list them for you.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's just list
Morris Worm, I Love You, 2000. Nimda,
I love you.
2001. Code Red, doesn't have a year. Melissa, 1999.
Oh, yeah.
MS Blast, 2003. Big,
the Blaster.
2003. Stormworm, 2007. Michelangelo, 1991. And Jerusalem, 1987.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm reading this on the internet, so this has to be the definitive.
It's gospel. It's on the internet.
That's where the Michelangelo worm is from.
I say WannaCry because Malware Tech did an interview on Darknet Diaries that was really good and told the whole story.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to that one.
Dude,
I
fascinating.
talked to him
story.
a few times at RSAC, actually.
Yeah, fascinating story. Great guy. So anyway,
Have we ever
back to
interviewed him?
No,
We should do that.
back to the Apple AirPlay thing though.
Yes.
The thing. So my son, I bought my son. My son's getting ready to drive, so I bought him a 2011 vehicle, and 2011 vehicles don't have the same technology that newer vehicles do.
True.
And I was like, well, that's interesting. I'm like, I've seen these devices advertised to me in various social media things, and heard about devices that you can plug in, and it gives you the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay experience. And I'm just starting my research on them. Some of them have screens. If your vehicle doesn't have a screen, you can get one with screens. Some don't have screens and can interface with. Now you're going to know what kind of car it is. The BMW iDrive system has a screen. They can interface with that. They're very range in price from around $100 on the low end, all the way up to $400. They also mentioned, I think I've seen these devices on AliExpress. There's like a bunch of Chinese knockoff. I don't want to call them knockoffs, but Chinese
versions,
Chinese manufactured versions of them, which I can assure you is very cheap embedded type hardware that probably runs Android, that probably has backdoors and malware already baked in to it as well. So I'm trying to navigate these waters to find a good device that doesn't break the bank. But if they implement the Apple AirPlay SDK, they are vulnerable, and who knows if you're going to get a firmware update for them or not.
Yeah.
So that's my concern with this, is that Apple's going to do their due diligence and protect their users, but the ecosystem at large it's not up to Apple whether or not these other devices get updated. Apple can make them aware of it, but they have to go update their devices, and then you as the user have to go update not just your phone and your watch from Apple, but now your car and your device and your speaker and other
it's okay,
TVs.
Paul. You wouldn't hack a car.
No, why would you hack a car?
Well,
You wouldn't download a girlfriend.
Wait, I wouldn't.
To be clear, so these devices have to be on the same network with somebody who's attempting to compromise them, right? And so, keep that in mind when you're connecting your car to random Wi-Fi. I don't know how often does that occur. I don't know.
Not very.
TV.
Does it work like your car?
Whoa.
Where,
You've never driven by the Bolt bus just to get free Wi-Fi as you're driving down the road?
It's only you, Josh.
My new car has Wi-Fi built in.
Yeah.
The rat rod?
No, my new truck.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, well, yes, the rat rod, the glass and the roof are all Wi-Fi.
The glass and the roof, because
there's no roof.
Exactly. It's all Wi-Fi. It's
My
Bluetooth.
wife's new car has a built-in hotspot, but so does her phone and so does my phone. So I haven't activated because I'm like,
yeah.
Why?
Why do I need 3?
But
You only have 2 hands.
This is it. Some should be busy. So I'd say, Paul, avoid the wait. Just buy the one that you know is already compromised.
Yeah, right.
Buy the one that you know is
sure.
already compromised.
Then you get to do some security research with it, right?
Yeah, there you go. I
And
mean,
it's probably cheaper because they're probably monetizing some ads or something on your devices.
No,
so it's
you bring
cheaper.
joy to whoever went to all that effort.
I was thinking he can help his son learn how to follow in Dad's
Bravo,
footsteps.
Mandy. Bring them joy.
Not only do you have a car now you've got Android Auto and AirPlay, and bonus, you've got Chinese malware.
So
it's a feature.
Yeah, pay no attention when it makes sudden right turns without you touching the wheel.
Yeah, right. Well, that'd be interesting if they could bridge into the vehicle.
The
system.
CAN bus is one bus, right?
Yep.
So-
Certainly possible.
Well, technically 2 buses because there's a low speed and a high speed.
Okay, but isn't everything connected? Well, anyway, there's not a lot of isolation there. Was my point.
There's more isolation in newer vehicles.
Newer vehicles.
Because someone came
Shocking.
up with the idea that I wanted to patent eons ago, but couldn't find a good patent attorney.
What's that?
What was the idea?
CAN bus firewall.
Yeah.
Yay.
I want to talk about the signal clone that was used by the U.S. government officials that has been hacked.
Give me a number.
And so Signal is based on open source, so anyone can create a clone. That's the deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Technically, they violated the license the way they did it, according to one article I read.
Oh, because it's open source and they modified it and didn't release the code back open source.
Re-release the code. They would have to re-release. If it's GPL licensed, right?
Yeah.
I forget the differences between the different versions, but in all versions you have to re-release modifications, I believe.
Right. So they created a closed source thing using open source code, which violates the license, but that's the least of the worries.
So how did they get hacked?
Well, so the interesting thing about this, let's go back a little bit. So the application that they were using was called TeleMessage, which, just looking at the screenshots that I've seen, looks exactly like Signal. It looks very similar. However, for some reason, the TeleMessage app, one of the functions that it adds in addition to what Signal provides is it provides for backup of the messages. So and that those messages can be stored in areas such as like an S3 bucket or email or something like that. And
so even if it has disappearing messages, they don't really disappear in this version.
Right. They disappear from the interface, but they are recorded and stored.
Which is
arguably that's a good thing because
that's right.
Forensics.
And because of the deal with all of the government communications and certain officials need to have all of their communications stored for
financial
records.
services,
That's the records
government
retention
people,
law, which is law.
Yeah. So I understand maybe the reason for this, but still, the reason for this.
Well, I mean, but the article I read, the first guy that hacked it, of the two guys, wrote a little bit about how he did it. He said he analyzed the app, he found the URL it was sending things to, and he said within half an hour, I got all that data. So it must have been doing something awful at the other end, like an open Amazon bucket.
Right. That was my reading between the lines, Sam.
It reeks of an open S3 bucket.
That's what it for me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting.
But why did they do? I'm just puzzled.
So why did they use it?
You're required by law to archive the messages. So if you use normal Signal, you'd be breaking records retention laws. So this is the government version of Signal that satisfies that requirement, and nobody thought about the security.
But it's not the government version of Signal, from what I understand. And I'd like to hear Josh weigh in on this, but from what my understanding this is a beta version written by some, now it was an Israeli company, and the United States and Israel have a great relationship, and a lot of real good security software comes out of Israel. So I'm not coming down on it. But from what I understand, it's not the official U.S. government sanctioned Signal, right? I
think in practice they decided to use it because when all this Signalgate started, the Trump administration officials said, "Well, that was the app put on our official device by the IT team, and you cannot put this app on from the store. You can only put it on through your mobile device management solution." So it was chosen by somebody in the Trump administration to deploy, and so the end users felt, okay, this is the official one I'm supposed to use.
I am checking now, but as far as I know, there is no such thing as an official government Signal clone or Signal whatever.
Well, this was designed like the enterprise version of Signal.
Official. Yeah, pseudo-official. Your government IT workers put this on your government IT
I'm still just
phone.
confused on the motivation, though. What is there no other equivalent officially approved apps for communication?
So I kind of tend to agree with Larry. I think they were trying to to satisfy the Signalgate stuff where okay, we need a way to use Signal and also keep our messages backed up.
Whoa. No. I'm sorry. Full stop. Let me be very clear. Any information that crosses that has what is known as classified information
that's very different.
No, it's not.
No, it is.
Okay, so you're right.
It's not.
Bear with me.
No,
for a
it
second.
is.
Any classified information must go across an official government secure telephone unit, STU.
Right.
Okay, Jeff used
correct.
them. Several of us have used them. Okay. I don't even know if they're called STUs anymore, but I think they still call them STUs, secure telephony unit. Anything that is lower
they're
than
retired by now, but yes, that's what they were
well, no,
called.
they just have different models of them, but you get the idea. There are even Blackberries. Yes, I'm going back in time a little bit that have
You were going
secure
back
telephony
in
units
time
them.
when you said stew. Not
I
BlackBerry.
did, but
Yes.
BlackBerry's a little less in time. But but here's the thing: non-classified information has different levels.
Mhm.
Even though it's non-classified, there's still ITAR, EAR, there's still CUI,
Yes,
there's
yes.
still this, there's
Yep.
still that. You want to send some of that information out, you still have to cross it across an authorized platform. Okay,
Correct.
you cannot put ITAR, no foreign, whatever across commercial signal if it hasn't been authorized. There's no ATO, authorization to operate. It ain't happening.
Well-
So they still fucked up.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think any. So, Josh, I don't think anybody's arguing that they didn't fuck up, right?
Okay, just double checking.
Right, but you know,
Because I was looking to see if anything was FedRamped, if anything was
There's not.
approved.
Well,
I don't think so.
And of course,
I
the
don't think
question
they
is, where are
fucked
they
up. I think
storing
they don't
stuff?
care.
right, Jeff, me
Oh,
too.
well,
Ding.
look at the
Bravo,
TeleMessage.
sir. Well said, sir.
Look at the
So
compliance page on
what we're
TeleMessage.
saying is,
Wait, Jeff,
just so
who
we're
do you
clear,
think doesn't care?
this is just shadow IT then.
The current regime.
Well, I'd argue this was shadow IT coupled with somebody trying to take a shortcut on compliance, because the records retention says all federal records have to be stored and eventually turned over to the National Archives.
Right.
If you create federal records, or if you're at a certain level at an agency, I don't know, like the vice president, everything's a record.
Yes.
Well, so the interesting
So
thing for me
that's-
is if they're going to break the law, do I want them breaking the law using Signal or TeleMessage? Right? What is that app? Right? Like, and we get to a point where like, oh my gosh, if just use Signal then, just
Right. Well, they should accept the risk. I mean, you can take the Signal chat and copy and paste it into a record, and
but nobody's going to do that, right?
But
actually,
Your comparison, Bill, is silly. Your comparison is, if they're going to break the law, how would I prefer that they break the law?
Yes.
How about they they not break the law in the first place?
I think we can agree that's not going to happen.
So the hook from TeleMessage is they offer a WhatsApp archiver, a text message archiver, and a voice archiver, and their
Totally
secure
let them do
messaging app.
WhatsApp.
In other words,
Come on.
they're playing right at the folks that need to store these communications. So they're hitting you right in the weak spot. And by the way, you can. I mean, I worked in a place where people using Signal because they had to were obligated to attest that they were storing those messages and prove it. It wasn't, but
It's not the best scenario, but
because it's an administrative control. It can fail. But I'm having a problem whereby they got from that to picking this other signal, particularly.
Well, so and also with TeleMessage, regardless. So Lee, I hear you, but okay. So it became aware that they were using this application TeleMessage because of a screenshot that like a zoomed in camera shot or something, and very quickly that app was hacked because it was sending data to who knows what that was unsecured by what, because it hasn't been reviewed by it just hasn't been. So Josh, you were talking about ATO, right? The ability to operate. Nobody's reviewed it. Nobody's looked at this app, and we have no
Hence
idea.
the shadow IT aspect.
That's
We
right.
want to use this technology, but it hasn't been fully vetted.
That's right.
And that's how we get ourselves into trouble, quite frankly.
Right.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yes.
Well, but also along those lines,
That trade wars.
We're starting to see consequences for when you don't do that.
When you don't
We
do
are?
what?
My number 6, where Raytheon didn't implement 800.171, but self-attested that they were, and they're now being fined
False
under the
Claims
Fraud
Act,
Act.
right?
Yeah. That happened in a big way to university, right? Similar kind of scenario.
Georgia State got hit with like $4 million fine.
Yep.
And trust me, the False Claims Act, I just went to a talk about it with a lawyer. He's sending me his deck because, oh my God, it's ugly. This is
what?
I'm sorry?
Slide
He's
deck.
sending me
Slide
his
deck.
deck.
Sorry, slide deck.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whew, all right.
No, you're
Sorry,
the
is
one
he
that's
sending that
never
over
mind.
Signal?
Anyway.
Grinder.
But like the False Claims Act is being lightly applied currently. It
Okay,
actually
yeah.
has incredibly nasty sanctions in it. As in, hey, your company's paying millions of dollars and you're going to jail.
Yeah.
So when they
Yeehaw.
really get going, and by the way, they've made signals that they're really going to get going with the FCA, the False Claims Act, in the near future.
Yeah.
It's going to be ugly. There's going to be people.
Well, that's like the now I'm blanking on the acronym, but they're going after the HIPAA leaks that are coming out of the medical compromises. They're now starting to ramp up the fines on those. But I tried to encapsulate something you said, Josh, and I may have screwed it up, but I said that I thought that the CMMC 2.0 stuff was intended to make this, to reveal these kinds of situations where things weren't properly vetted.
That is correct. It's supposed to. And it will once it's actually in place. The final rule 48 CFR is which is the DFARS Act is actually still not in place.
Okay, because what I said was CMMC 2.0 is intended to address gaps such as this.
It is.
So that's pretty wiggly.
But the problem is that you've got roughly 300,000 defense industrial base contractors,
just a couple,
and about 60 C3PAOs, which is the certified third party assessment organization.
So you've got a capacity problem.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, there
seems
like
a lucrative career field.
Oh,
I want to move on, and I want to give everyone the choice. Hello, my perverted friend, or there's a backdoor in your e-commerce.
Yes.
Let's go with
the first
e-commerce.
Those are not related. Those are not related.
Well, even so, I'd say go for e-commerce, and let's see if we.
All right, let's go
Jeff
for there's a backdoor.
It's time.
Also, I want to get Bill's story 1 in sometime soon.
Okay, duly noted. But we're gonna do there's a backdoor in your e-commerce. This was like big news.
What number is it?
Who had this
it's
story?
my number 2, but I know you guys had it too.
Yep.
Paul's 473.
It was 2 weeks worth of news, okay?
Ding, ding, ding. Nicely
No
done,
days
Andy.
off. I'm always finding news, okay?
I got 4 weeks of news, and it took me 6 stories.
There were like 7,000 stories. I'm like, I'm not even going to upload because good grief.
A lot of stories. So backdoor in popular e-commerce components. Sansec discovered a supply chain attack. Multiple vendors of e-commerce software. 21 Magento extensions.
Magento, yeah.
Okay.
Magento? Is it Magento?
Yeah.
Not Magneto.
Yeah, I thought it was Magneto.
It's
I
Magneto.
like Magneto.
Magneto. There's
It's
a typo
Magneto.
in mine.
It really is Magento. I learned this in the CFP years ago. CGF. It's really called Magento.
Okay.
I said it right. I had a 50-50 shot, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Way to go, Paul.
Yeah. Sometimes I get it right. That was just luck.
So
what?
This
The
is what's
malware executes
Jeff.
in-site visitors' browsers and is capable of stealing payment card data.
This sounds like it's right up Jeff's alley.
Yeah.
Yep.
The affected vendors, Tigran, Mage Solution, and Mitanchi.
Yes. And the killer is that the Magento it's Adobe Magento, but that's not where the problem is. It's the value added for those 3 vendors that's got the flaw, including the Magic license key. And you were about to say something, Jeff, and I cut you off.
that's okay. I mean, this is what we refer to as a mage card attack, which is website skimming, which is why the PCI Council added several requirements in version 4 of PCI to try to protect against this, including putting those requirements in the short form of self-assessment questionnaire that's reserved just for e-commerce sites, and then ripped it out 2 months before it became official.
Yeah, we covered that a couple of weeks ago.
We did, and it continues to be an open, festering wound.
So
it's just a cluster.
Is that true? The software was infected 6 years ago.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah. That's what? That's in it. So it says the software was infected 6 years ago,
And
but
it
only
came to
activated
life.
last month. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long game right there.
Yeah.
That is a long game, but it's having a payoff, isn't it? How many sites were impacted?
One of the mitigations kind of confused me. They said if you find the target license key, and by the way, there's a different checksum for each of the 3 platforms, although it's the same code, remove the license key and then restore to a known good backup. And I'm kind of going, wait a minute.
From
Not
when?
that it might still have the backup.
More
but
than
you're
6 years ago?
Yeah. That's bingo. Give the man another
does
cigar.
Sounds like a little bit of boilerplate mitigation.
Yeah, that's so
information there.
So I just filed that. It's and as near as I can tell, 2 of the 3 vendors have said they weren't compromised, but one has said yes they are. But But 0 of the 3, as near as I can tell, has released a patch. So or update or fill in the blank, which is weird.
Do they know where it got in? Because now we're talking, if it got in 6 years ago.
I was going to say probably not, because who has
Yeah.
a log
Yeah,
retention?
I mean, they know where to find that
policy that
funky
long.
file, but
I
and
see.
it's in
So we
different
have
places.
IOC, so we know where to go find it. We're probably never going to know how it got there in the first place.
Yeah, I was trying to remember
That's crazy.
was the Sans. There were a couple
IOX.
articles on this. I was wondering if that
It is pronounced IOX. That's a valid pronunciation.
Okay, like a Mimi.
No, Constantine is not a meme. A mem is a meme. Constantine says it's IOX. He
Okay.
loves the term. When he first on the Three Buddy podcast, when Constantine was using the term IOX, I'm like, I had to like pause the podcast and think about like, what is he? Oh, IOC indicators compromised. IOX, got it. Okay, push play again. I'm good.
How common is it they refer to the exploitation as abuse? I don't feel like I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, they throw that term around.
It's
It's a little
marketing term.
sensationalized. Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
It-
what's
yeah, just-
insidious about this from an e-commerce perspective, and it's complicated because the game these days is outsourced to third parties. That's where we have emphasis. On
Not my
supply
problem.
chain
Someone
attacks.
else's problem.
It's not
right?
my problem. It's somebody else's. The vendor's saying, "Well, it didn't technically hit our stuff. It was something that was added later." Nobody takes responsibility. Nobody's checking the security of e-commerce sites because all the focus is on the payment page, which is usually served up these days through an iframe, so that in theory, the credit card information that's typed in by the consumer is going directly to the payment processor, not traversing the website, the web application, the web server, web instance at all. So you're not touching, you're not seeing credit card data, therefore you don't have to follow any of the controls. You just have to validate
now, Jeff,
you're using a third party.
My question is, and Jay Scrambler is not sponsoring the show, but I really like the company because I met with them years ago. I would imagine they have a way for you to detect this in their software,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
And it's required now. If you're doing the full PCI data security standard, you're required to inventory all the JavaScript that's on the website. They either refer to it as the parent page or the prepayment page, but wherever the iframe is embedded, that's where you're looking. You have to inventory all the JavaScript. You have to make sure that they're authorized, and you have to have some sort of check in place to make sure that they're valid, that they haven't been altered. And then there's also a requirement that talks about, very often URLs are kind of generated on the fly. Headers are generated on the fly. You have to have detection in place to see if they've been tampered with. And even though the council refuses to say it, they have an SBOM requirement now that it includes inventorying all of your software components and any of your custom bespoke software.
This sounds like a firmware thing, like what we do at Eclipsium, but in a web application. In other words, we can tell you, hey, the firmware you're running has been backdoored or tampered with because it doesn't match, or it matches this known signature that we know contains a backdoor. Jay Scrambler is doing the same thing, but in JavaScript, they're like, hey, you've got a vulnerable Magento, extension or whatever.
Right.
I would think that's something that they do. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea on like the implications this has for the customers of the stores?
Yeah, probably.
Bad
Some of
things?
them might have had their credit cards
They
stolen.
get their credit cards
Yeah.
stolen because they're skimmed, they're hijacked, they're intercepted.
Yeah.
The information still goes through, and you still get to purchase whatever it is you're buying. The purchase is successful. It's just that the information's been intercepted along the way. It's almost like a man in the middle attack.
Well, it's the software version of a card skimmer, right?
Correct.
So if you're using a reusable pan,
So do you think the attackers happened to just find this like 6 years later, or that they actually were waiting?
Oh, they were waiting.
They were waiting. Yeah,
Yeah.
they backdoored this software 6 years ago, and I don't know, forgot about it. It was like,
That's what I'm
oh, hey,
wondering. It was more
remember
like,
this?
Oh, yeah, I came across
we can
this
steal
again.
we can steal a whole bunch of credit cards now. Let's go do
Right.
that, and then we'll get caught. And then
7
then they'll
years
get caught.
ago, I think the first Mage card attacks were discovered back around 2018. So the time frame is right. So maybe they were laying low for a while until the attention and focus waned. And
Yeah, you know what,
they
Mandy, though,
decided-
to your point, how to protect yourself as the consumer, I've used, and they don't sponsor the show or anything, but I've used privacy.com.
I do too.
Which, right, allows you to generate that one time.
The one-
Like you can
yeah.
literally generate a credit card number and use it once and then burn it.
Yep.
Right.
Which
So
I'm all
in
for.
today's day and age, that is super useful, right, to protect yourself, which is great because, changing your credit card number, as we all know, is a huge pain in the butt. That happened to me late 2024 Christmas season. I had to redo my credit card.
Worst time to have that happen.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, privacy.com is awesome.
Yeah, I had, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of these. I had a credit card number stolen not that long ago, and it was very interesting, and I had some splaining to do.
Yep.
Let me
Because
tell you.
the credit card number got stolen, and they charged up about $600 on OnlyFans.
That sucks.
And it wasn't me.
Hey, man.
It wasn't
Yeah,
me.
it
I
wasn't me.
swear, my
Hey,
credit.
honestly,
that's
it
my
wasn't-
go-to excuse. I don't know, sweet. My credit card was been hacked.
Honestly, it wasn't me that time.
Yeah, Larry, I want to thank you for going ahead with that purchase from that store.
Yeah, and
That's
that's what
funny.
I was
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
It might have been exactly it.
Yeah.
it.
Those
Yeah.
weren't the gift cards we
I
were
would have
looking for.
I would have taken credit for that, except you said it was for OnlyFans. I'm not going to.
Well, that's it. I mean, the initial purchase on that store for those pretty cool pieces of clothing, that may have been how it got compromised from one of these types of attacks, and then the credit card used in OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now I guess we got to
can
do
we-
hello, my perverted friend, right? Since we're on.
Perfect segue.
Perfect segue to where's my. There's a lot of stories.
Yes, we know. Dear God.
This was a good one though. This is the attack. So this is basically
Story
social
27.
my story number 27, social engineering plus email phishing kind of attack where the attacker send a message and say, hey, I've observed you on your computer. I put malware and I saw you watching porn and I saw everything that you did while you're doing it, and I'm going to release all that stuff online.
This has been around for a while.
Unless you pay me. And our friend Neil at hackerfactor.com.
Neil Krawitz?
Neil Krawitz, who
Okay,
also runs an image analysis tool.
Yes.
What is his image analysis tool? I'm going to look it up. Photo analysis. It's right here. Photoforensics.com. And he's like, yeah, I look at porn all the time because people submit it to my site and I have to, validate the images and do all that stuff.
And it's not even the good stuff.
No,
It's usually from
like,
creepy, ugly porn from people who should really be wearing clothing.
yes. But what Neil was trying to get to in this article is like, where I like to go with this kind of stuff is who's doing it? How do we get to the root cause? And what are they after? And there's been some speculation both in his article and in the comments. And my assessment is I think this is a spray and pray.
Oh,
right?
for
This
sure.
is just,
Absolutely.
I'm going to send this to as many people because like email's cheap. Even in today's day and age, email's cheap. I can use AI to help me set up my infrastructure and all my emails. And so I'm going to send lots of email. And if I get 10 people to pay, I don't even have to recycle a Bitcoin address. Like I can be lazy and set up one Bitcoin wallet and everyone just pays that one Bitcoin wallet. And someone in the comments who analyzed that Bitcoin wallet was like, yeah, 10 people paid. I'm like, but that's probably profit, right? The business minded me, if I were to be a criminal, would be like, well, if I send out millions of emails and it costs me X and 10 people pay and that generates Y amount of revenue, I'm probably still coming out ahead.
So the way this works
what
is,
they're banking on.
they're mining data like the dumps that go out, right? Because like part of the email that goes out says, hey, just to prove that I'm in your system,
You had this account.
like your password is blah 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 blah, right?
Right.
And
right.
so and that's that scary part that people that don't know, like, that's how they're getting that information and why they'll pay, right? So they're going through dumps and they're just, and yes, it's absolutely spray and pray, Paul. Like go through those dumps.
A similar kind of attack is a message I get every couple of weeks for some Facebook property that I own, or I guess rent from Facebook. and they're like, hey, there's been a community standards violation and we're going to take down your page, and this is Facebook, and you need to click this link or send us this thing or whatever. And I'm like, that's not coming from Facebook. That's just someone who's got some tooling to go through all the Facebook groups, pages, or whatever, and try and extort money.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar kind of thing. I think the whole thing is, the crux of this story for me is, we got to educate people about this. I think we largely know about these scams and attacks, but they're still going on because there's some level of success. So we need to raise awareness to lower that rate of success.
So the problem with scams like this is people are embarrassed to ask their friends like us, right?
Right.
Because like in the event that it was real or whatever, they're essentially admitting to the fact that, hey, I was doing something on
This actually ties into my story number 2.
Wait, before we go to that, can I reference a story from a brilliant hacker named Lucas? So he's from Czech Republic. Freaking brilliant hacker from the OG Shadow Syndicate. And his laptop was stolen. So the person who stole it, Lucas eventually figured out who it was and asked for it back, and they refused. Well, Lucas, being freaking brilliant and being his own machine, he did take video of the guy fapping and everything. He did have all of the history of what the guy did with his own laptop.
So the guy stole his laptop, and then
Lucas could access,
but the original owner had it was
hacker.
like a role reversal. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And it gets bigger because
I bet it does. And we've got video to
very, very poor choice of words right there, man. As soon as you said it, I was like, no, that's not going to slip by anyone.
So as you were saying,
short, it went to national news, and the guy's mother and everybody saw it. So it was across the country because of how it happened. It's a fantastic story. Anyway.
So wait, the guy who lost the laptop's mother or the hacker's mother?
The guy who stole the laptop, his mother.
Oh.
Saw it on national news.
Dumbass.
And,
hello, ma'am. What's your claim to fame? Oh, my son was masturbating on national television.
There's another threat. If you don't pay, I'm going to tell your mother.
Yeah.
Yep. What's that old joke? Hacker tells me I need to stop masturbating. Why? Because that's my laptop. Oh wait, no. No, sorry, that's the doctor tells me you need to stop masturbating. Why? Because that's a doctor's office and it's disgusting. And I'm trying to examine you. Oh my goodness, Paul, what'd you do to that computer over there?
Story number 2.
So my story number 2 is about culture change, and I wanted to talk about this even just for a minute because it's
all we have time for because of all Paul's stories.
Paul has so many stories this week.
You should have used your voice changer for that.
No, don't stop. Don't encourage him, Larry.
No, but seriously,
it's
this guy wrote a phishing package for houses, for people, for families, because he realized that he does corporate training, and he teaches security awareness training where he teaches about phishing, and he teaches about scams, and he teaches about this stuff. And he's like, "Why have you never heard of this?" And they're like, "Well, we don't know about it." And he realized that you don't know about this stuff until you get burned.
Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, let's take it back to the house, because if you don't know about it, how are your kids? You're the professionals. How are your kids learning about it? How's your spouse learning about it? How's your whomever, grandpa, grandma, whomever's living at the house with you. So he wrote a really nice package to do free phishing at your house, to your family members. And he's trying to figure out how to do prizes and gamify it and stuff. But the point is, making this culture change to actually teach people how to act in a secure fashion is tough, as we've seen from everybody from government officials down to families.
Robux dollars. That's what you need.
Roblox.
That's true.
Roblox.
But I think they are called Robux.
Robux.
I think they are called Robux on Roblox. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
a
an
cesspool.
idea.
It's a cesspool.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But something like that, something that would be attractive to the kids and the adults, and they could play board games, maybe board games or whatever. I don't know. But the point is that and this guy actually, so I was talking to him, he actually built an app. Do you remember in I think it was Signal. Which was the one that you had words you said to each other to make sure that your connection didn't have any man in the middles?
Threema?
Maybe Threema. Okay, yeah. He built an app to do that on your regular phone call, so you could make sure that the person you were talking to wasn't a deep fake. So it would do an app put. You'd say, "I'm talking to Bill," and I'd do an app push, and Bill would get words pop up. You'd tell me the words, and I'd say the words, and we'd know that we were talking. I was actually talking to Bill, not a deep fake.
Interesting.
He gave it away and couldn't find enough adoption.
Wow.
People don't friggin' care.
Yeah.
So how do we? And this goes back to what you were saying, Paul and Jeff as well. How do we make people care?
Yeah. It has to happen to them before they care.
Unfortunately, it's the hard way.
Yeah. It's always been, like that.
Every time Bill talks, it's
And did you see the look on Jeff's face when this happened? It was like the first time was okay. The second time, the third time was like, what the fuck?
So Josh,
taking his shoe off to throw it.
Is it still going, Jeff?
Josh, the solution is clear. You hack them. It's for their own good. They'll thank you.
Well, no, we don't need vigilante hacking. Vigilante hacking is bad.
Except for when it's good.
Yeah. Just tell your kids. Tell your kids
Don't
what the
go
common
there.
scams are. Tell your kids.
Oh,
Tell your kids
I want to talk about digital signage, which I think was the kind of lost part of this article, because the articles that I read and the research talked about MagicINFO, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And it went into great detail on the application, and I think it was a Java application, and how it had vulnerabilities, and it was a serious vulnerability, and there was exploits that were published for it. I'm like, that's cool. I love that. But I'm like, what the hell is MagicINFO, and why do we care? Right?
Wait, is this on the same story?
No, I totally changed gears.
This is Paul's 26.
But I wanted to talk about MagicINFO because I got all sorts of notices from PR people about MagicINFO in the last day or two.
This is stories Paul 4,377.
26.
It is my story number 26.
I think it's my story number 3, but then
It was reported to SSD Advisory, Samsung MagicINFO unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerability. MagicINFO is software from Samsung that provides digital signage, all-in-one digital signage solution designed to manage, schedule, and monitor multimedia content across Samsung commercial displays. Centralized platform for content creation, device management, data analysis. What could possibly go wrong? If you read more, a wide range of business applications, retail, transportation, hospitality, healthcare, and corporate environments. So this is if we want to do digital signage, we get a Raspberry Pi with some display and we hack it ourselves. But when you're in corporate environment, you need a solution like from Samsung to help you manage all kinds of digital signage. And we've all seen the displays. We've all seen the errors on the displays. We've seen the displays. I've got lots of my social media, right? Activate Windows is in the lower left-hand corner. Yep. Blue screens, kernel messages, UEFI messages on only, digital signage. But this is specifically software from Samsung that enables this. So now the hacker brain in all
and
of
what
us
devices does it go to? All Samsung?
I think these are Windows-based, based on the exploit, Mandy.
Uh-huh.
It looked like these were Windows-based devices. So this is, from what I can tell, a Java application that runs on Windows that is part of the MagicINFO ecosystem. So it's not just like I've got like a digital sign in my store, so I got Windows on it, I put the software, and it's a one-off. This is like a whole ecosystem where I can manage all of my displays. So think about it from retail. I've got 10,000 stores.
So, like a
They've all
restaurant
got
or
signage
something,
in
they
them.
could...
Yeah, they all run the same software, and I want to put the special of the day up on the digital signage in all 10,000 stores. I believe that's part of the use case for the Samsung MagicINFO ecosystem.
Okay.
And has a heinous vulnerability, really easy to exploit. The other interesting thing, this was observed being exploited in the wild by Arctic Wolf, but also Johannes from the SANS Internet Storm Center observed this being exploited in the wild as well as part of Mirai.
But
So
it wasn't
this is
exploited in the wild, which was the premise of my article, because this thing, the vulnerability is like a year old almost. It didn't start getting actively exploited until somebody published a proof of concept exploit, and then
that is my story number 26.
Yeah, we've heard enough of your stories. It's somebody else's story.
Story number 26 has a proof of concept. It's basically a curl command that executes a command in cmd equals cmd.exe plus /c plus who am I is the example command, right?
And
like
so our
anyone can
listeners
look at this and
that are tired of scrolling through Paul's endless array of stories. It's my story number 3.
Hey, and I asked for Bill's number 1.
3
We'll
out
get
of
to Bill's number
7,
1.
by the way. Just saying.
Did you have more to add to that story other than it's your story number 3?
I just want to give people variety. That's all. Choices.
Oh, okay.
Numbers.
3 is a lot easier number to remember than.
But I think what you're saying, Jeff, is this has been around for a while.
It's been around for a while. Well, I wanted to bring up because we've had discussions about CVEs and vulnerabilities off and on, criticality. When do you fix them? Why do we need to fix them all? But people like to prioritize, and one of the criteria is, has it been seen to be exploited in the wild? And this one wasn't until somebody published an exploit, and then it started. Why did they publish a proof of concept exploit in the first place?
Well, because people have plenty of time to patch. But my guess is, and this relates to PCI, Jeff, that your digital signage is not included in your payment card systems.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking, I don't really understand how much you could access most companies' digital signage would have to the rest
neither
of
are
their...
HVAC systems usually, but
right. Well, this is back to the CAN bus. Like airplanes have had the similar kind of problems where all their systems are interconnected.
People don't believe us when we say, everything that's on a network segment is connected unless you have some sort of segmentation.
And don't worry, they offer a cloud version of this software.
Yeah, so you host it in the cloud, and all your signage that displays all the menus in your restaurant chain all pull from the cloud.
But it's on the cloud, so it's secure.
Is that the MagicINFO premium server? Because if there's about a dozen results on Shodan for that.
Wow.
Right now.
Wow.
I mean, that's
only a dozen?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But only on port 7002, as the article indicated.
I think we're supposed to talk about Bill's story number 1.
So
yes.
Bill's story number 1.
So I'll talk about my story number 1. But first, you have to understand.
How many stories did you post in total? By
I
the way,
think
Bill?
maybe 4. I'm not sure. I'm not looking at it right now.
Yeah, you had 4.
But so
you only had
I got to
4.
tell you
Try
how
harder.
I became aware of this article before I even talk about this article. So on my phone today, I received an alert that, Bill, you were tagged in a video on LinkedIn. And so I went to LinkedIn, and it was a video about us arguing about where did security people go now? And I went to LinkedIn. So,
and you went to LinkedIn.
And so I was on LinkedIn, and I decided to stay on LinkedIn, and I found this article, and it is unbelievable. So it's my story number 1. And it points to a website called the thorcollective.com, which interesting enough.
Bill, which story number is this of yours?
This is my number 1.
Okay, just checking.
Listen, that's hilarious.
You can pick any of them. You have a 25% chance of getting
that's
it
right.
right.
Okay, so
Sucker.
listen. Hey, back to my story. Back to my story number 1. So the
Story number 1.
most interesting part about this is my old team. I had no idea that they were doing this stuff. So this is my old team at CenturyLink, and they've moved on, but. This article, you need to go and read it. So what it talks about is, so these are how to conduct threat hunts is primarily what this website is about. And going through this article, John Gregata, who a longtime buddy of mine, I look forward to seeing you in Vegas, John, but he goes through and he starts talking about how, when they're doing threat hunts, what tools he's using. But if you keep going through this article, what you really can start to extract is real tradecraft on how threat hunting works, right? And that's why, so that the tools are great, and John does a great job of explaining, how he's using the tools in, but what I really, really liked about this was, really fundamental. fundamentally, what is a threat hunt, and what are the tools, tactics, and techniques that threat hunters are using to threat hunt their environment. I just really, really like this article, going through and showing you how to use open source software, how to use the attack framework, how to look in your environment for specific, looking for, like, if you're a CISO or somebody says, hey, I want you to be looking through my environment for this specific threat actor or those kind of things, how you identify what the threat actor's TTPs are, and then how to look through your environment and track all of that in a way that's easy for your team to parse. And
I want to violently disagree with something in the article, and that is, he says, so the scenario is your CISO just read the DBIR. Now you know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
He says, so it's Monday and you're halfway into your third coffee. I just want to say that normally this happens on a Friday afternoon or on a Monday when you're don't even have, coffee, or maybe you have coffee and you're taking your first sip, and you read that communication from your CISO. It's like, hey, how are we protected against Kimsuki?
Yeah.
And you're like, shit. What the fuck is Kimsuki?
Yeah, usually.
And then how do I go find all of that?
It's not Monday halfway through your third cup of coffee. It's usually Friday halfway through your third bourbon.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Friday
But
night.
so right below,
learn my
right below,
or in Bill's case, halfway through your third buzzball.
that's right.
Right.
Listen,
Just as
I'm
you're
getting ready to
winding
pass
down
out.
to
I'm
knock
getting ready to
off
pass
for the
out.
weekend.
But so, like, right below that, right below the coffee, they really get into tradecraft around threat hunters. And so, like, if you're something that you're a blue teamer and you're even interested in getting into this, or it's something that you do, you definitely need to go and read this, because this gives you some behind the scenes for people that have been doing this for a long time. I just really
awesome.
like this.
But I so agree with the anti-spreadsheet messaging in this post.
Yeah.
I just look, I love spreadsheets as much as the next person. But when you get into an organizational process, spreadsheets are not the answer, right? If your answer is spreadsheet, you need to think about what the solution is that allow you to collaborate, track, manage, monitor that process, right? And have accountability through it. Spreadsheets do not provide any of those things I just listed.
But I enabled co-editing on my spreadsheet, Paul. It's okay.
I know.
Sure.
I know. You can do that, but it's
But no,
it's
it's
not
where am I going to get the
answer.
budget to pay for something that's better than a spreadsheet?
It's
how
free
do I
and open
justify
source.
it?
It's
Yeah.
free. Vector is free.
Oh,
My
you know,
organization is
really
not
free.
allowed to use open source.
Well,
No, that's we're
they
talking
quit.
25 years ago,
Yeah.
Jeff. You're not allowed to use open source. That's
See,
not a thing today.
Now, the only beef that I have with this article is the image that's just past, quote, the fold of the two cartoons, the one with the red face and the angry, and the guy that's blue and happy.
Oh, I can show you that. Hold on, it's right here.
Yeah, I would be
Yeah.
pissed in both cases if those are my laptops, because the screen is the fucking wrong way. And the keyboard is on the wrong side. I mean, I understand why the red guy is angry, because the
I can
keyboard is on the wrong
I can
side.
understand why the blue guy's happy. I can't see shit. Right?
Everything's fine. I don't know what you're
Everything's
talking about. I don't see any problem.
Yeah, see, I'm not that guy with the keyboard on both wrong sides of the screen, right? That's when you know AI was used.
It's true.
Yeah.
That guy has too many
I'll give him a
fingers.
pass though, because it looks like a great
Heck
article.
yeah.
Bill, I agree.
Heck yeah. Hey, there was something that was touched on real quick here, and
Was it my story number 327?
It was not, because there was a quick comment about CVEs being submitted, and we've got to fix all the things. And my story number 6, and I know I saw it in there. It's the AI slop vulnerabilities.
Oh, yeah. You only had 6 stories, huh, Larry? You tried
Yeah.
Look, you had a half day, okay?
For the record, didn't our fearless leader a month or so ago say, let's all try to keep our stories below 10 so we can get through more of them in an episode? Who was
But
it
Jeff,
that
it was
said that?
it was 2 weeks,
Rules
Jeff.
for thee,
It's a
not
great,
for me.
yeah. It's a great thing about being a leader. The rules don't apply to the leader.
He meant for us to keep them under.
For everyone else, everyone
We're
else.
never gonna
keep
get
your
through all
stories.
the stories if we submit stories as well, right?
Right. It's about my stories, Jeff. That's what we're coming down. No, but I like Larry's story number 6.
Yeah.
AI slop.
Yep. So effectively, Curl Project is having all of their vulnerabilities managed through BugCrowd. And they are receiving so many reports through BugCrowd that almost so many of them come from reporters that just use AI to generate the submission. In fact, one of them even had the output from the AI tool that said this is being generated from an AI tool type of thing in the submission.
So is it the report, or are they having AI find false vulnerabilities?
They're all false vulnerabilities. So poor Daniel Stenberg, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just want to put this out there, and I want people, please listen to this. Daniel and team are doing God's work, maintaining an outstanding tool and library that we know and love as curl. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why bug hunters want to use AI to find bugs in curl.
Fame. Fame. They want
it's for fame, right? Fame. Yeah, exactly. Like, just stop. Just
a paycheck.
Stop. And Daniel's and his team are looking at him going, all of these are bogus. There is not one, if you read this article, right? There is not one that has any validity. And so, like, just you're taking time away from people who are making an awesome tool that we all know and love, and creating AI, using AI slop or creating AI slop vulnerability reporting. To what end? All you're doing is distracting people from doing great work. Daniel and Carl is an outstanding code base. They pay attention to security, and they do a fantastic job. Daniel has taken initiative to be a CNA, CVE numbering authority. They have a bug bounty program.
Yep, and for the record, it is HackerOne. Yep.
Yeah, so
he's talked to HackerOne before about getting them to have stronger methods for being able to deal with this stuff. One of them, he said, to read from the article here, some AI reports are easier to spot than others. One accidentally pasted their prompt into the report, Stenberg said, and the prompt ended with, and make it sound alarming.
Yeah. So, but also here's the thing, and this ties into one of my many stories, is that you should be using AI to help you, right, find vulnerabilities, but you have to validate those.
Yep.
And in fact, my story number, one of them, I'm going to find it. No, I'm going to find it. Just bear with me. Hospital systems. It is one of my
story number 6 to
my story number
50.
32. This is a great segue into vibe hacking, finding an authentication bypass, and remote code execution in open game panel, and put the vulnerabilities in whatever product or whatever. The whole crux of this article and why I loved it is because they were so honest and not overhyping what we're now calling vibe coding. And now this vibe hacking, which is essentially using AI to help you write code or help you find vulnerabilities. By all means, do that. But you have to validate the findings. If you read this article and you're like, wow, that was helpful, but like the researcher had to take it upon themselves to validate the findings to actually find the vulnerability and exploit, and give several examples using Cursor to turn those prompts into leading them down a path, but then going, it's not quite there, so I have to kind of do it on my own. Fantastic. I love the approach.
The best part is vibe hacking just described DARPA's AIXCC.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Hey, Paul, I want to hear your story number 8, because I don't think you've talked about any of your stories 1 through 24 tonight.
No, I just, I put those in there as just,
filler. Hello, 0 days, my old friend.
Yeah, so this was from Google's
old as new. Wow.
Google's threat intelligence group, and I don't remember the story.
Yeah, because it was 2 weeks ago. You probably should have just skipped it.
Well, I found it interesting enough to flag it. So if someone wants to go read it,
nope.
Okay. Moving right along.
Oh, good God.
I've beaten this horse dead enough.
All right. If you want to read my story number 8, come on the show next week and talk about it.
Yeah.
There we go.
How about that?
Oh, what else we got here?
Oh, that was it on vibe hacking? We didn't want to harp on vibe hacking.
Oh, no, I think vibe hacking is good.
Vibe hacking is crazy. By the way, they estimate that 30% of code at Microsoft is now vibe coding, and they expect it to go to 90% in another year and a half.
So where's the guardrails?
Huh? What are those? Why do we need guardrails?
Lee, vibe guardrails. Come on now.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Vibe guardrails.
what was I thinking? No, I mean, come on. How long have we
That's
told
the
each other
problem. You were
don't
thinking.
take the code out of Stack Overflow and just use it, right?
But yeah, so it's interesting. I was thinking about this when we were talking when other podcasts were talking about vibe coding, and it was our good friends Tom Eston and Kevin Johnson, and I specifically listened to their episode on the Shared Security podcast because I wanted to hear what their take on this vibe coding thing, right? And it was hilarious. However, it took me back to a time when, yes, we had the internet. And after a time when we used to share punch cards in a drawer, right? And borrow each other's code. But moving on from that, when I had my first programming job in college, we had a software version control system. It was actually called PVS. And I forgot about this. And I remembered that, well, I couldn't necessarily go to the internet and copy code because there wasn't a lot of code like that published to the internet. But what they told me as a very junior programmer was, Paul, don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
If you get a task, make sure you go to our own version control system and find code that's similar to solve the problem that you're trying to solve and start from there. Don't spend a bunch of time rewriting code we already have. Familiarize yourself with how to use a version control system and how to go look in there for code. And I'm like, we've always had this thing. Like, there's so many examples in the time I've been doing software development since I was 8 years old where we've always borrowed from other people's code, right? And it's always been encouraged that we don't start from scratch, that we start from another starting point that's not a blank file.
That's also why we have supply chain issues and need an S-bomb these days.
It doesn't come without its issues.
That was one of the first lessons that we learned in one of my programming classes in college. First day of class, like within the first 5 minutes, the instructor said all good programmers reuse code.
Right. Yes. And so
consistency and like coordination and using good code. It's like contracts. You never want to be the writing a blank field contract if somebody else has already done it.
Right. So, I mean, back to my story number. So I want to go to story number 33, how they discovered Planet Technology network devices. So these are like industrial routers. So CISA released advisory about these devices, but didn't publish a lot of details. This researcher was like, well, I want to understand all the vulnerabilities in this platform. And he identified the vulnerabilities in the CISA report, but also found other vulnerabilities. The way that this person got here was sort of like a vibe coding kind of thing, but he's like, I used the new version of Binwalk, which is great. So I learned a couple things. One, new version of Binwalk, working really well for reverse engineers. Great. Number two, a Python script to automate some of the analysis, which was awesome. So it scans the given directory for ELF binaries. So once you use Binwalk to unpack the firmware, he wrote a Python script, give me all the ELF binaries, create a Ghidra project, load each ELF file, runs Ghidra's default analysis, searches the set of functions for xrefs. If a function is found, decompile that code, write it to a directory. Awesome, right?
Nice.
You could use AI to generate the Python script or whatever, but like
then you should use AI and pass it to like Claude or something like to analyze the code that gets written.
That was one of my other many stories buried in there is using the Ghidra extensions that enable you to use LLMs to help you analyze the code. It's in there.
So you mentioned learning how to pronounce IOC correctly, and that
IOX.
And then,
it's called
and
IOX.
then you say XREF.
And Ghidra.
How do you pronounce
just an observation?
How do you pronounce XREF, Jeff?
I would say cross-reference.
Cross-reference. Yeah.
And Ghidra.
It is Ghidra.
Ghidra.
Now I'm failing on my pronunciation.
Don't let him bully you, Paul. Like,
Thanks, Bill.
You should need a couple.
Thanks, Bill. Bill's got my back.
A couple buzz bombs. You're good.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Are we back to GIF
I had
versus
like
GIF?
1,247 stories. All right, bear with me.
You can't expect him to get the pronunciation on all of them right.
No.
Jeez.
Like I said, we're back to GIF versus GIF, aren't we?
GIF.
Oh, geez.
Potentially.
So while I was at RSA, I sent a picture to my good friend Mr. Josh Wright because he does that whole GIF hard G, soft G thing. And there was a security company called JIF.
Like the peanut butter?
RSA. Yeah. But no, it wasn't peanut butter. It was GIF, JIF. And I sent a picture to Josh and said, it feels like you should go to this booth because he was at RSA.
Oh, I want to go back to Apple for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you guys see my story number 35?
Nope, we didn't get past
I know
about
there's a lot of
7.
stories in
I
this,
didn't
so
get
you might
past
have
your
missed it.
story 12.
I know.
She's
Story
made it
number
through.
35, though, is awesome. A single line of code could break your iPhone. So I just want to summarize this.
RM
research.
minus RS slash? No.
That too. So these notifications in Darwin or notifications on Apple platforms, the researcher found there's no special privileges for receiving or sending. It's a public API, and there's no mechanism for verifying the sender. You combine those properties, and he's like, I wonder if there's places where I can bypass the sandbox and cause denial of service vulnerabilities.
Really?
And spoiler alert, the answer was yes. And the post talks about how he was able to create, I believe, an iOS app that exploited this to be able to basically spoof notifications and cause unintended consequences on those devices. One is just putting up notifications like a restore is in progress. So if you're restoring an iPhone, you get that message that a restore is in process. That message can actually be spoofed. And there was even a denial of service vulnerability where spoofing certain messages could cause a denial of service on your Apple devices. I thought this was really cool research. He got a bug bounty of $17,500
Nice.
from Apple for disclosing these vulnerabilities.
It's nice.
In Apple has released fixes. It's pretty cool. It's worth a read. It's videos of the attacks in action and a lot of details in the post. I liked it. I thought it was awesome.
So it sounds like the old input sanitization flaw again, which is not unique to Apple or anybody. I'm not.
Well, yeah, and also the sandbox, bypassing sandboxes, you got to kind of think
Outside the box.
literally outside the box, right? About
I see what you
how
did
you
there.
can get around those things. Yeah.
So
What else we got?
A lot of them.
that was cool. That's a cool.
We could do the VMware one. Did you see the cease and desist letters that VMware sending out?
No. Let's talk about that.
VMware, if you were a perpetual license owner from VMware before Broadcom bought them,
right.
and
Of any product, if I licensed any product,
a perpetual
guessing this
license
is-
of VMware.
what does perpetual license mean in this context?
Expensive.
You don't. It was expensive, but people that were like, "I'm going to be on it for the next 20 years," bought it. What it meant was, I get.
Does
to
that mean
use-
you're like, I'm going to be on this for 20 years, so I'm going to prepay you and save money?
Well, it's basically I pay. You know how you can do a subscription license or you can do a permanent license.
Like a
This was the
lifetime.
permanent license option.
Yeah.
Like a lifetime
license.
subscription.
Lifetime
Right,
subscription.
except it didn't include support. Did not include support. So you still had to pay for support if you wanted to, which is fine, no big deal.
Sure.
Okay, that gets you updates, that gets you support, that kind of thing. If your support contract expires, and remember, they were telling people, if you want to buy support, you have to pay for the subscription license. The perpetual license is no longer valid to buy support on. So if you wanted to buy support, you had to get a subscription license, which was like 300% higher, something ridiculous like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't buy support, you're now on a lapsed subscription. And so what they're doing is they're sending cease and desist letters saying that if you download any code from us and install it on your system, it is a violation and we will sue you. So they're not allowing updates of any sort. So if you are a VMware customer,
So what they're saying is like you bought version
3.
1
yeah,
or
1,
3.
whatever.
You bought version 3.
Right.
You installed that on all your systems. You
That's all
paid
you
for
can
that
use.
all up front. That's all.
Yep.
That's all you can use.
Yeah. And you don't get any patches. You don't get any. Apparently, they're letting you have 0-day security patches. Okay, whatever.
Oh, how nice of them!
It's so sweet. But you don't get any patching, updates, upgrades, nothing. And if you install them and they're claiming audit rights so that they can come in and check, is what I understand. If you install them, they're going to sue you and make you pay them for a subscription license in arrears.
Wow.
So
It
like,
sounds like they're going to pay in the never mind.
it sounds like VMware is going to just basically die because this is ridiculous.
I hope not.
I
mean,
I
hope they
bet
don't die.
there's so many
didn't they make the-
organizations using it though. I mean, but you know
Is this a newer policy?
This just came out today.
It came out.
but it's so shitty because I paid a subscription. Like I bought VMware Workstation for
Yeah.
several years, and then they're like, oh, by the way, it's free. I'm like, so, but
Right.
what did I get? What did I get for paying you all those years?
Yeah,
For
so,
the,
but
I got nothing. I get nothing. And then I'm
and-
like, great. Well, now I don't have to pay for it anymore. That's great. I
Right.
mean, that is great, but also,
Well, I
It's
mean,
nothing
they-
personal. It's just business.
Don't get me wrong. They still have a paid tier or they up until recently they had a paid tier and a free tier.
Mhm.
So you were getting something for what you paid.
Yeah, nowadays I'll be very honest, and you want to be upset with me, Broadcom? Go ahead. I wouldn't recommend VMware for love or money.
no, I would go Proxmox, or on Linux, you can do QEMU and KVM.
Yep, there's a lot of options,
Which is a little more. It's a lift, right? It's a little more work, but it works phenomenal.
honestly these days,
Proxmox, I hear
containerized stuff.
I haven't done Proxmox, but it looks great,
Yep.
and a lot of people using it with great success.
You just like
right?
saying
know this,
Proxmox.
Proxmox.
Pros v Joes uses it's. I keep thinking it's Proxmark, but that's the RFID thing.
I get those two confused. Yes.
I know they use the Proxmox stuff, and they love it. It works perfectly.
How well does Proxmox do with USB pass through?
Apparently fantastic. That's what they told me. Because especially because they're running a CTFs on it, so people have to be able to put USB devices on to do IoT CTF stuff.
Used to be that the competitor to VMware I was running into was VirtualBox. Whatever happened to them?
Oh well, Solaris
Yeah, I use
Oracle.
VirtualBox.
Oracle happened to
Yeah.
them.
and Solaris VirtualBox is now sort of usable.
Oh,
Yeah,
but-
it never worked great on Linux
No,
for
it
a
never
long
did.
time.
Which is
Lee.
ironic.
yeah.
It was.
But yes.
I had like major issues when, what was I running? What is the System 76 Pop OS in VirtualBox? Like scarred me for life. It was an awful experience, and I was like, I'm done with that. And then our mutual friend Tyler was like, dude, just run VMware. And I'm like, cool. I maintain my VMware Workstation license for Linux, and that worked. And it does. I mean, look, VMware Workstation works fantastic.
Yes, it does.
Especially on Linux. Like it works. I still use it to this day. I did dabble with KVM on Linux and QEMU VirtualBox. libvirt. And it's just, it takes a little more tweaking. It's a little tedious. Like to get VMs running is fine, but like, to do the networking stuff, there were some dances that I have to do. Larry was talking about my server I have there. That was one of the dances I was doing was the networking. But like if I sat down and figured it out, like it's very performant. It just requires a lot more tweaking. I probably should look at Proxmox as an alternative to that.
Yep. Another one, UTM, which is basically a front end for QEMU.
Yep. So yeah, lots of options out there for virtualization. My story number 28. This one was lots of interesting things. So there's a cybersecurity firm CEO who was arrested for planting malware in hospital systems. So Jeffrey Bowie, the CEO of a local cybersecurity firm, I'm not sure where this took place, where the local is coming from, but he was arrested for allegedly planting malware on computer systems at a hospital. He touted himself as a leader in protecting businesses from cyber threats. Was basically so the interesting part. One of the interesting parts is when an alert employee noticed Bowie, who was a non-hospital staff member, using a computer designated strictly for employees. That was the red flag.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma. So the employee's quick thinking report set off an immediate internal investigation. Speculation is obviously CEO of a cybersecurity firm goes to a hospital and plants malware. Maybe that person's trying to get them on as a customer and go, hey, like you have malware, but it's malware that they implanted.
Yeah.
And this kind of ties into the whole conspiracy theory. The antivirus companies were the ones making viruses, which, look, to this day, I have not, and correct me if I'm wrong, hosts, listeners, I have not seen conclusive evidence that an antivirus company ever created viruses. Sure. And that's the sense that I get from folks that have worked for those companies for a long time, is that this is really just a myth. This is just like a tinfoil hat kind of conspiracy that antivirus companies created the viruses to make money. If you have evidence that this happened, I'm all ears. Like, this would be a great like Netflix documentary film to explore this issue and come to some conclusion. Have antivirus companies ever created malware or viruses to promote their business? I don't think we have great evidence for that. I think we can.
I think those are two.
We're gonna put it to bed unless people have evidence. If you've got evidence,
I think those are two different things. I think they probably did create malware.
Yeah.
But did they use it to promote their business? Probably not. But so to bring back some of the story.
But why would they create malware?
Testing their own engines.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Great.
Yep. So to bring back a little bit on this story too, I think this is a little bit less, which ironically comes to some of the rumors that I heard, a little bit less smoke and mirrors and conspiracy theory here. That some of the things that I heard was that Bowie had done a lot worse than was stated in the article, other than putting malware on that just did some screen captures. I heard that there was some infiltration, some pivot, and some download of PII. But the observation of a non-employee on a employee computer, my understanding was that it was like one of those computer on wheels that they use in the hospital to do interaction with a patient by the bedside. And it was one of those. And that he may have actually been a patient of the hospital at the time for some mental health help.
So here's the
Do you know
thing.
who is a
Like when I
connection
read
of his?
this, sorry, Mandy. When I read this article, I was like, well, what if I had to take an opposite viewpoint? And I was like, maybe he was a patient of the hospital. Maybe the hospital contracted with his cybersecurity firm and he was doing a pen test, much like we had the example with Coalfire, where things just went awry. And I'm like, well, maybe he was actually doing a pen test and was authorized to implant malware on there, and things just went sideways. But now that the more I read about this article, I don't think that was the case.
Mandy?
So one amongst us is a connection of this person's on LinkedIn.
Ooh.
I see it too, Mandy. I see it too.
Wait.
This was the missing link.
Wait.
Jeff,
Really?
Jeffrey and I have been great LinkedIn friends for so long.
I was going to say, I expect calling out in the Slack channel, the private Slack channel here in a second. Who was it?
It's Jeff,
Who was
Mr.
it?
Jeff Mann.
It's Jeff.
Oh, it's Jeff. I thought it was me because
No,
I've been willy-nilly with accepting LinkedIn
Right,
connections,
right.
so I'm like, it probably me.
I'll
Jeff,
just
tell us
add-
all about Jeffrey Bowie. Come on, man. He's a good
Well,
friend.
I have a lot
on
of
LinkedIn.
followers on LinkedIn. I don't necessarily know them
So
all.
Bowie contested the
It's a
acquisition.
connection. It doesn't say
It's a
follower.
connection, though, not a follower.
It's a
It's different,
connection.
Jeff. Yeah.
Well, I connect
And-
with everybody that asks. And
Me
if
too.
they're
Yeah,
real-
no,
if they're
Joe, I don't
real-
fault you. I don't fault you. Yep.
So it
Now I
looks
have
like
to go look.
Bowie has admitted to writing and running software on one hospital system that took a screenshot every 20 minutes and sent it to a remote host.
Is it Bowie or Bowie? Is it like David Bowie or
I don't know.
Bowie. It could. The city the tiny town that my grandparents are from is called Bowie, but it's spelled the same.
I spell Bowie differently.
No, you don't.
That has absolutely no bearing on the story.
Well, yeah.
So for the
What's
record,
another
the
way to
portions,
spell buoy?
the portions that I heard
Like a
about
buoy, like a buoy that
buoy.
floats. Like a buoy.
B-O-U-Y.
I didn't know there was going to be a test. God, shit.
BOUY.
Spell check.
And,
I don't know.
and Bowie, that's exactly how it's spelled because
Same
there's a knife
spelling.
named after him.
Same
a
spelling.
Bowie knife. It's a
Bowie
Bowie
knife.
knife. It's not a Bowie knife. It's a Bowie
It's
knife.
a Bowie knife.
No, it's a Bowie knife. I always call it Bowie knife.
And this is also the guy
And
that
I'm
used
wrong?
to say meme.
Meme.
Meme. It's a meme, Paul. Yes, Lee, it hurts that bad.
No. So
Speaking
Some
of
would say
meme,
megahertz.
Yep.
Well, as of
Here
2
we go.
days
Back to
ago,
the dad
Thinking
jokes.
about-
Here we
regardless
come.
how you say his name, as of 2 days ago on LinkedIn, it looks like he's looking for a 9-to-5 job. Jeff Bowie.
Really?
Bowie. Bowie.
Yep. Mandy, you had a comment in there.
Oh, meme. I was thinking about that.
Meme is a Portuguese for grandma. I
Well, I'm
believe.
not connected with him
Okay.
anymore. How's that?
Oh,
He's dead to me.
Done.
He's dead to
It's
me.
dead to me. It's cut off. It's cut off.
Well, because that word mime, like in French, moi mime, myself. I was thinking the last couple of days about how Chat GPT, if you were saying that in French, if you just say Chat GPT, like you're literally saying, I just farted on the cat.
And we have the name of the episode.
I just farted on the cat.
Cat, I have farted on you.
Yep.
Like, that's what that says. Chat GPT. Like,
Oh, it's so great.
wow.
Cat, I farted on you,
I
right?
don't even know where
There's
to go
cake
from
farts. There's a website, Cake Farts, but there's no cat farts.
I think my
So,
wife is calling me for
wrong.
dinner. I gotta go.
It's just
Let
it's
the
all
cat
cat
fart on
farts,
you,
Lee.
sir.
It's all cat farts.
I'm pretty sure one of your first 24 stories, there was an article about cat farts, Paul. If only you'd
there.
reviewed
Buried
them.
in there somewhere.
Let it go. Let it go.
Oh, that's it. And that's the title of the episode. Chat GPT.
and
I farted on the cat.
yeah, the way to learn, like pet in French is fart. And but I didn't know that. And I was in France and I was like petting the cat. And I was saying to the cat, like, here, I'm petting you. Like,
Gives
person
whole new
next to me
meaning to
started
heavy
laughing.
farting.
Exactly.
Heavy petting?
Oh,
what?
Jeff, you've been in the studio this evening, I see.
Oh, is it
Oh,
time to
good
wrap?
time.
Oh, are we talking about the FastCGI library?
Oh, we should.
We should.
Let's do
As
that.
it would do, we've seen this on embedded
Oh my gosh.
IoT systems a lot,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Because it's a lot faster for processing CGI
This is like-
by compiling your CGI.
Oh, like CGI, right? I remember one of the
What
thing that
story
actually
is this?
my story number 25.
So we probably all
Okay.
should have gotten there by then now.
But so here's the thing. I remember one of the things that I wanted to be a hacker, that drove me to be a hacker, was in college. I had to take and I'm not tooting my own horn, but like my parents bought me an Apple IIe when I was like 8 years old, and I learned to program in BASIC. They signed me up for a programming class. Forever grateful, right? Because it started to send me down this path, right? So when I got to college,
20, go to 10.
yeah. So I'm in college, and of course in college I think I know everything about computers, which is the furthest thing from the truth. But
But it's accurate for a college student.
yeah, and I had to take a class on Microsoft Office in the late 90s, right? And I'm like, oh my god, this is going to be the worst thing, and it was pretty awful. But my teacher one day in class was like, there's this thing called the internet and the World Wide Web, because it's the late 90s, and that was like a new thing. And he's like, if you go to some websites and you put a bunch of stuff like in the URL bar,
There's porn
like,
there.
interesting things can happen. Not porn, but like interesting things can happen. And I'm like, oh my god, I want to be a hacker for the rest of my life. Like, this is so awesome that you could go to a website and make it do shit it's not supposed
and you
to do.
and you totally did view sourced and got the CGI script.
The PHP script, absolutely. But I was
Now,
like,
Find the
there's a
flight
joke from
simulator
way
in
back.
Excel.
There's a joke from way back.
but like CGI was the thing back in the 90s, right?
Yes.
How you made a web application like do stuff.
it was arguably the dynamic part for having it connect
was
to
CGI.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure the
to
example that
databases
my teacher showed was like a CGI. Like he's like, oh, if you go here, you get like this internal server error like thing, and it was a CGI application.
Yep.
That's where I date like the CGI.
That was how
stuff.
you could get your web server to execute code to interact with
Yes.
other systems on a network, such as databases and other files.
But on
and-
like firmware-based systems and IoT stuff, the FastCGI library is still in play because you need like a condensed version. Like I'm writing everything in C, but I need a web application, so I'm going to use FastCGI to have the web server component like interact with binaries on the back end that actually do stuff.
And instead of having like a shell script that's slow, you could have this already compiled and
in the
it was
name,
much faster.
It's fast, but also vulnerable. And not just in the application sense, but in this case, there's a vulnerability in FastCGI. It's a integer overflow. It allows for remote code execution. There's two ways to run FastCGI. It's TCP sockets or it's Unix sockets, which are internal. That's one of the remediations is make it all internal, not through an actual socket. So this one turns out they can overwrite heap memory, and systems that don't have modern protections like ASLR or non-executable stacks, you can execute code. So like my whole thing with this vulnerability, again, which is my story number 25, which comes from Synactive. My question is now, well, hold on. We have this vulnerability. How many firmware-based systems have this vulnerability?
A lot.
And how many aren't going to update that? A lot. Is also the answer.
Yep.
And no, that's like kind of my quest. I'm like, this is a really cool vulnerability for how pervasive I think this is going to be in these type of systems.
So this one caught my eye because thinking about our
day jobs.
Not only that, the IoT class we teach for SANS, one of the exercises that we do is some attacks against a simulated or a simulated FOSCAM web camera. And we actually ripped the web interface from the FOSCAM webcam, which we had to do the hard way because the firmware was encrypted, and there is we haven't broken the encryption key for that particular firmware yet, nor had it been released at the time. So we had to go and like do a wget to get all the stuff. And as a result, we got CGI scripts, but they were FastCGI and they were compiled because we wanted to modify what the output was actually.
Right.
Oh, it's like CGI. It's no problem. It's a shell script.
No, they're actually like C++ binaries.
And they're binaries,
they're not easy.
and there's no good decompiler for FastCGI scripts that I found. So basically, we had to just punt from scratch and create a CGI script that would emulate what the results were, and it wasn't good because we didn't have good analysis of what it really did. So were very limited options as to what we could actually do. So and it's out there. All over the place.
For sure.
All over the place.
I think this is like ripe for binary analysis in FastCGI scripts.
Yep.
100%.
So let's do like 15 more stories at most, okay?
Well, we're 50 seconds over.
I know, I'm kidding. It's a joke.
Yeah, but we started
Let's
late.
wrap it.
And Bill is wasted.
No,
but
I
we
figured
did
based
start-
that we had 70, 80
So wasted.
stories, we have to go for 7 or 8 hours probably.
Yeah.
If you want to root Android phones, check out my story number 24 from Black Hills Information Security on how to root Android phones. It's a really good primer. Like save that. Whether you've done Android rooting or not, like save that as like the primer that explains stuff to you. I thought it was a really good article. And I highly recommend that you go down that route.
Well, I was
around with
doing this
Android.
recently and I couldn't complete this. I was doing graphics.
Yeah, so the story came too late for you, right?
Yeah.
Right, Mandy? Yeah, no, it's a good one.
Thanks.
I know you were doing some of that stuff. Definitely read this article. I was like, I haven't come across too many tutorials on like setting the state of like, what is Magisk? Why do I need to unlock my bootloader? How does all that stuff work on Android? The Android like open source ecosystem.
And Verizon is the devil. That's all you need to know on that because you bootloader like.
But it's not just Verizon, right? It's a lot of providers that lock their phones. There are certain phones that I have that just either can't be unlocked or you have to go to OEM and like fill out a form, and they'll give you the stuff to unlock the bootloader kind of thing. And I'm like, that's too much work.
Verizon was the only one I found that absolutely will not.
They will not. Yeah, if you
They
get a
will not.
Verizon locked, it's.
Yeah.
And I
But
thought-
it's
I
a
thought
testament
they
to
had
security. Like to have some Android phones that literally can't be unlocked is a testament to security.
I thought they had to allow for unlocking after they had a certain age.
No. Oh,
Well,
maybe
but
after a
it's
certain.
supposed to be that after you paid off, like once you own the device, it's
Yeah.
your choice.
Bill is
but
just
no,
laughing. I don't
because-
know what Bill's laughing at, but he's just laughing. Bill's
Listen,
pleased.
you wouldn't believe me if I told you. Like,
So tell us.
So tell
we,
us.
We totally don't want to
I
believe you.
can't.
You'll have to tell us off air then.
That'll be in post show.
Yeah.
No,
If
I have
only
a
the
lot of back and
listeners could
forth
hear the
with
pre and
Verizon
post show.
support. What?
I said, if only the listeners could hear the pre and post
Yeah.
show,
I know.
which we need to
could
get to
be
quickly
Awkward.
because we're 3 minutes over. And
minutes
I want to thank everyone for listening and watching this edition of Paul Security Weekly. Larry, take us out.
Oh man, it's been a long time. I forget how to do this. Oh wait, over and out.